Armada Book 3 Chapter 4 The Romits Part 1. The next day, late in the afternoon, Gantley arrived at Andrew's location. He beamed himself into Andrew's bridge and, "Hi Andrew, it seems like a lot of your people are down in the planet below." "Ibudi." "Well, they are trying to get intel, but I know they are just sightseeing. I read the reports and it is now academic, but next time we have to identify the threats and see if they are real and determine a timeframe at which to look at these threats. The chemical have united a fractious planet. Now they will be united for a long time. How would you choose?" Andrew asked. "Frankly, if involved in keys, there is no question, they have to be free." "That's what I think also. But Eric and Roger feels we should weigh whether we choose free will or peace. I also heard you sent both of them out to do recon. Let me send 9 of my commanders as well to the rest of the planets and moons within 600 MLY. Don't forget to have them tow the hop ships along with them. And tell them to take some of the Jectanox with them." Ellie beamed in with Donna and Dr. Reek. "Sir, we ran a DNA trace of the humans below and they are closer to the Neanderthals we met earlier than to us or even the Max. I recommend we make plans for first contact." Andrew introduced the father and daughter to Gantley. "Andrew, humans are humans, it is always good to bring them to the fold. Maybe it would be best to do it in a structured way to prevent chaos, cultural and technological shock. Take Layla's planet, personally, I would have talked to the king. They have Max anyway and the Max will be the drivers of their technology." Gantley said. "I would agree, but what would these people get or benefit from the first contact? As I said, humans are humans as Norsets are Norsets or my Inkeys are Inkeys wherever they are. If it were Inkeys, I would talk to them right away." Gantley repeated himself. "They would definitely benefit from our technology and we could benefit from the peace. Of course our gene pool will also improve with their integration." Ellie added. "I think first contact from our side should assume that we have a program for their coming into the fold. Unlike when our paths cross because of war or slavery, here we have a choice to contact, but once we do this, it carries a responsibility to see them through to some goal. Right now I don't see a goal for them and for us." "Why would 2 commanders experienced in intergalactic travels and contacts have differing views on the matter of contact?" Reek asked. "Are you talking to me, Dr. Reek?" Ellie asked. "I was just thinking out loud. But Ellie, why do you think this is so?" "We are wary of our own kind." Andrew answered. "That's the correct answer. Unlike Gantley who sees them as his people, we see these people as our own kind but somewhat other humans unlike us. They are not our people yet." Reek said. Ellie concluded, "It's just point of view then. We can simply think of them as our people, so it is now important to bring them nearer to us, to our world, because they are family." Gantley explained, "When you have 800 planets of Inkeys and then you have Furlets who are also Inkeys and you have Intis in several dozen planets, they are our own kind and they are now our own people under Rodin. Think of it as unifying the human race. The Max are humans as well and we are joined to them at the hip, so to speak, and it was not like it has been so for countless generations." Reek said. "Let me talk to the bosses. We have rules, you know." Andrew said. "It's been 5 days since they first arrived at the planet that they later found out to be called Greta. Andrew felt that they have gathered enough on the planet and its Greetan inhabitants in 5 countries. Olive, tell the ship commanders we will leave in 4 hours for the second planet. Make sure all our people in the planet below are accounted for. How many probes have you deployed around the planet?" Olive appeared. "Ellie deployed 4 dozen so far. I think that's enough since we also have 2 hop ships within 60 MLY. Roger beamed into Andrew's bridge. "Hello, sir. I thought you were in the first planet?" Ellie and Gantley found out Roger was with Andrew, so they beamed in. "Yes, sir, and it's 130 MLY away, so 1 hop and I'm here. Boss, this planet is a case for the books. They almost literally exterminated each other. There are 10 countries and they grouped together along religious lines, 6 against 4. According to their records, they have been at war for 120 or so years. We found 3 Jectanox ships and freed the crew. It seems the first group we found in the other planet knows some of them. As before, these Jectanox have no clue why they are there. We cannot beam the ship to my hangar since they are too big for us. So the Norsets are still there together with the crew and trying to piece together the story on the planet they found to be called Plegana, since their human inhabitants call them Plegans." "So the chemical is also involved in this?" Andrew asked. "I guess so, because their atmosphere is similar to the Gratans, the same high level of concentration of the chemical." Roger answered. "So now we find the chemical did exactly the opposite." Ellie said. "This is really strange. How many people are we talking about, Roger?" Gantley asked. "Hundreds of millions. At the start of the war there were at least 1.2 billion people on the planet. Now they are less than 400 million, half of them are very young. The destruction is all around. And as you can imagine, their armies are now just a bunch of ragtag, poorly equipped and demotivated men and women. Weapons, what were their weapons? Andrew asked. Standard carbon-based explosive devices. Their guns with bullets are similar to ours, but the calibers are bigger, like half-inch is the lowest. All the planes have been destroyed and now they rely on very few smaller unmanned drones with propellers powered by solar and battery. They have no water-based ships. I guess this is another Munoan in the making. Gantley said. Genetically, where are they? Ellie asked. They are not Neanderthal. Our scientists believe their lineage comes from Layla's planet. The Norsets are now studying how the outcomes can be so different. Are you saying that it could be in our genes? Andrew asked. Why don't we all go through the hops and let the ships follow? It's only like 12-hour trip for the ships anyway. Gantley suggested. Roger agreed, good idea. Olive, we will go ahead through the hops. Tell some of the commanders to come over also if they are free. Andrew said. In less than 2 minutes they found themselves in Roger's bridge. Before them were floating holograms which show the devastation on the planet below. How many probes did you deploy? Andrew asked. 4 dozen. Then some commanders beamed in, Colonel Jenny Phillips, Colonel Kevin Haig, Lieutenant Colonel Ono, Lieutenant Colonel Jackson. They found the people already there, all quietly observing the more than 2 dozen screens. It's incredible. Ellie exclaimed. Insantal beamed in with Ejectinoc, who believes he was the commander of the ship since the ship log shows him as the leader. This is Barchelum, he is the ship's leader for the 3 ships on the planet. The ship logs show him being called Sanchelin, but he remembers his name as Barchelum. Insantal said. He tried to introduce everybody else and John, Roger's ship AI, appeared to carry on the introduction when he could not name the others. Why did they go to war? Andrew asked. As far as we know based on ship records, the war was based on religious differences. 2 major religions polarized the planet and forced the people into war. Just then General Shannon Robin appeared with her assistant Colonel Kevin Haig. Andrew was the first to acknowledge her. Shannon, what brings you to our nick in the woods? Shannon started, Hi Andrew, Alan sent me to study the other cases and see how this can jive with what happened to Earth. I got your reports on the Greytons and this is an entirely different case. Andrew started to introduce the others in the bridge and John again came in to rescue the process. So Shannon, what do you think of all of these so far? Andrew asked. My conjecture would be that the Greytons' differences was political, not religious. Maybe this makes a lot of difference in the outcome. Makes sense, because politics can adapt but not fundamentalist dogma. Roger agreed. So do we let go and pump the reagent into the planet? Ellie asked. Gantley responded quickly, I am with getting these guys into the fold. Andrew countered, I would sit on it. I would agree with the boss. If we suddenly see these people go back to their old selves, they might freak out after seeing the devastation and be more aggressive. Roger said. Or, they will realize they should bury their differences and work together to rebuild their planet. Shannon countered. Or maybe not. Andrew countered. I would start making them my allies. Help them out, to rebuild their society. They could come in handy later on when we encounter the Romits. Insantal said. Gantley clarified, that would take some time to have them as useful allies. The key word is useful allies. Andrew emphasized. John, can you call on Eric to come over please? Roger said. Eric appears, hi guys. It seems the guys are all here. Ishannun. Andrew started, so what's up with your side of the dreamy planets? Eric explained, these are humans like the Greytons. Same MO. We got 3 ships also and the Jectinocs are at it already. The Norsets, Inkis and the ship crew are piecing together what happened. They call themselves Bromju or sounds like Brownjaw and their planet is called Brompton. And? Andrew asked. Eric continued, there are 3 countries, all at peace with each other for the last 120 years. They are Neanderthals. 1.1 billion population, almost industrial. They still use animals for travel, agricultural production, and food. Recently they discovered electricity and chemistry. High levels of chemicals in the air and waters. What course of action would you recommend, Eric? Shannon asked. For the Brownjaws I would have to say spread the reagent and wake these people up so they can develop in the real world. Then let them be. I would say that's a go, Eric. Unless there is somebody here who would convince us otherwise. Andrew said. There was no reaction from the people on the bridge. Speak up guys or forever hold your peace. Eric exclaimed. Still no reaction. Okay Eric, tell your guys to start deploying the reagent. Make sure no contact. Andrew said. I will see you all later. Eric gave a crisp salute and disappeared. So how about the Plegans? What's the consensus? Roger asked. Andrew grumbled, "Okay, I change my mind, let them have it." "That's fine with me, boss." "Any disagreement from the bridge?" Roger asked. "I have no disagreement." Gantley said. "Go ahead." Shannon added. Roger looks around and nobody seemed to be in disagreeable posture. "John, can you tell the Norsets to fly out and deliver the chemical to the atmosphere below? It will take several hours to see any effect. Why don't we go over to Eric's dream planet?" "John, who's next after Eric?" Andrew asked. John answered, "That would be Inky Commander Radano." They all beamed towards Eric's planet to see what the society looked like. What impressed Andrew was the absolute cleanliness and total greenness of the planet considering they were stepping into industrialization. The average human was bigger and looked stronger than the Earth humans. Eric opened, "Why don't we establish contact? I believe we could benefit from their gene pool and orderliness." Ellie added, "Why don't we do it like the Max did? Study the relationship and establish contact with the strongest country." Andrew disagreed, "That would take too much time. They will benefit from our energy sources. They would be able to maintain the greenness of their planet if we give them access to fusion technology. We can limit contact to the key countries and only for limited number of their citizens. That way they have some leeway as to how they would have their societies approach alien contact." Shannon said. "Okay, let's do the 2 peaceful planets. Shannon, you're in charge. You need to look at their society and leadership and determine the best approach. Maybe you can have Timmy in on how to deal with them. This could be a civilian matter more than a military one." Andrew said. "That's fine, I can do that." Shannon said. Andrew effectively washed his hands off of the task. "So can we move on to Commander Radano?" Gantley asked. Andrew nodded, "Come boys and girls, let's all go to the next planet." In a few minutes they find themselves in Commander Radano's bridge, which is really the same as Roger S. and Eric's. Gantley started to introduce the commander to Andrew's party then, "Commander, report." "Sir, the inhabitants are Norsets. The atmosphere contains a high level of the chemical. We found 3 Jektanok ships and we have freed the crew. Our teams are now studying the history and looking at the data systems for information. Do you want us to deploy the reagent?" Over 24 hologram screens popped up in front of them, people showing the scenes below. "Yes, immediately," Gantley said. "We only have 5 ships with the standard number of drones in orbit, so this will take a few hours for the reagent to take effect. We will concentrate in the cities first, then the outskirts of the cities, then outward." "How many Norsets are we talking about?" Andrew asked. 60 million Norsets in 8 cities. They are not as advanced as our Norsets, they seem to be one of the very first of the expedition sent out to create backup planets," Radano said. Just then another Inky commander beamed in. "This is Commander Tosuna from the next planet," Gantley said and introduced him to the party as well. Tosuna started, "Sir, the people in my planet are also Norsets. But they are fewer. I believe we can expect at least 3 Norset planets. The planet below would be the biggest one and the other 2 or more would be much smaller. Do you want us to dispense the reagent as well as you know it will take some time to affect them?" "Yes, for all the Norset planets," Gantley said. "Right, sir, I will communicate with the others," Tosuna said. "So how can the Norsets miss the infiltration?" Reek asked. "Tosuna, before you go, can you tell the other commanders further out to beam over and report?" Gantley said. Andrew looked at Reek. "That is indeed strange. They could have been tricked into letting the Romits near them to have them deploy the chemicals." Gantley smiled and, "What is really strange is that none of these events could have started if Andrew did not get the notepad from Dawn. That's not what bothers me. What bothers me is that Roden is sending more ships, the Norsets and the Max are sending more ships. We will all end up with more ships than we had when we dealt with the Tosbans." Andrew explained. 7 Inky commanders beamed in, first 4 then 2 then 1. "We could be in for a hell of a ride. And in all the planets, we have yet to meet a Romit," Eric said. The last of the Inky commanders that beamed said, "I believe we have the Romits in one of the planets." Gantley introduced his commanders to Andrew's party. "Commander Sannon, please continue," Gantley said. "The planet is the furthest out and we barely arrived when you called. The planet is Inky, specifically, Furlit. High level of the chemicals. My ship has transferred our data to Radano's ship. Please show the Romits." Half of the screens showed a gray-green creature slightly taller than a Mac, covered with exoskeleton-like crabs, with 2 legs and 4 arms with 4 fingers each, 2 of which were like pincers. 2 of the arms were smaller on some Romits, 2/3 of the longer arms but has the same 4 fingers, no claws. Their exoskeleton showed dents and some movement, making them appear soft rather than the usual hard shell. Their face were like a metal helmet with pointed eyes. The body was covered in a black armor like plating resembling small scales. The extremities also have this black armor plating but limited to the side and front. Sannon continued, "We are still trying to get their language and we believe we would be able to create a translator in a few hours. They have 85 ships in orbit and when we scanned the ground we found 3 Jectanox ships." "Did they see you?" Andrew asked. "They do not seem to have seen us. We deployed 4 probes on the planet and beamed several probes into their ships and they did not seem to notice." Andrew continued, "How about the other planets? What inhabitants do you each have?" One of the commanders said, "Mine are Norsets and we have started to dispense the reagent." Another one said, "Mine is Norset as well." Then one, "Mine is Inky, real Inky not Furlets, but no Romit." Then one, "Mine is Inky but no Romit as well." "Mine is Furlet like Sannon's but no Romit." So Sannon is the lucky one. "You guys, except Sannon, dispense the reagent immediately and we will deal with the Romits as soon as we get more intel." Gantley said. "Right, and we have to wait for our ships to arrive." Andrew said. "So are you going to talk to your people, Gantley?" Eric asked. "That can wait. I will have some of Rodin's officials talk to them and bring them into the fold." Andrew suggested, "Let's all go to Sannon's ship and see what's up." After 30 minutes, they arrived at Sannon's bridge. Sannon stood and, "The mess hall is ready. We can all take a break and get some refreshments. I really don't know why but I feel so hungry all the time." Reek said. "Didn't the movie mention that this hunger is because of the TPs?" Ellie asked Reek. "No. Well, the writers will definitely hear from me." Ellie said. At the mess hall, they all got the food they were used to. Some Jectanox were there with Insantal eating what seems like round-shelled chocolates and large steaks. They seemed to fancy the boffing wines. Suddenly, the arrival of Andrew's party signaled all the crew to come over and eat and this made the mess hall packed all of a sudden. Tonin beamed into the mess hall beside Andrew's table. "As expected, I find you all in the mess hall." Tonin greeted them. "Get something to eat," Andrew suggested. "I just had my fill." He pulled a chair, squeezed it beside Andrew and Eric and sat down. "I sent 10 forward ships to the target Armada and they are Jectanox. They are centered in a planet and it seems the planet is filled with Jectanox. So the main group parked 60 MLY away waiting for our orders. The scout ship have deployed the probes and are gathering intel as well. So no engagement, huh?" Eric said. Gantley looked at Tonin. "We found the Romits over down at the planet below and we are still waiting for intel." Andrew called out loud to Insantal to come over their table. When he was beside Andrew, Insantal, "This is Tonin, the commander of the Norset fleet. He found your people in a planet about 800 MLY away from here." Tonin looked at Insantal. "Your ships are not moving and the planets hold millions of your people. That's a very good news. Can we go to them?" "Yes, there are hops in place all the way to the planet. You can be there in 2 hours," Tonin said. Insantal suddenly became excited and immediately left the group to tell his comrades the good news. Andrew could see them stop eating, cleaned up their area and leave the mess hall to gather their people. "I want to meet their leaders. Maybe they can shed more light into the Romits. After we finished eating, of course," Andrew said. "I will go ahead of you guys and go back to my ship. I will meet all of you there in a few hours," Tonin said. Right after they finished, Insantal approached Andrew and said, "I heard you wanted to meet our people. I can introduce you to our leaders whoever they are. My people have gone ahead and I just waited for you to finish with your food to go with you over through the hops." "Okay, so let's all go together then. Sannon, please continue gathering intel until we can get back. I like us to talk to the Romits before we dispense the reagent." "Yes, sir," Sannon said. After 3 hours they find themselves at Tonin's bridge. Bartolom was waiting for them. "Andrew, we have beamed down and made contact with our leaders. They have agreed to meet with you and your group. They were very much surprised because they thought all of my party, and we were more than 3,000 that appeared before them, were all dead." Andrew smiled and, "Good for you. So Tonin, Gantley, let's all go down and see what's up. By the way, did you guys scan the atmosphere for the chemical?" Tonin answered him, "Yes, and there are none. Here are your language translators. Let's go." The translators appeared on a console and they all got their translators. "Wait, the chemical may not be in the air, but some of the Jectanox may have been infected," Andrew said. "Yes, I agree. I will order all my ships to send out drones to deploy the reagent," Tonin said. They found themselves in a large hall with several Jectanox milling around in groups. Andrew's party was fairly large, more than 3 dozen, and they beamed in 3 batches into their positions. Bartolom started, "Greetings, great leader, these are the aliens we told you about. This is Andrew, the leader of the group of the Human and Mac Armada, Gantley, the leader of the Inky fleet, Tonen, the leader of the Norset armies, and their commanders. This is our great leader Savalno and the Supreme Council. Savalno raised his hands. Greetings aliens, welcome to planet Jektonomen. This is our adopted planet and we are refugees from our own world. Unfortunately for us, almost all our people in the old world have succumbed to the power of the Romits. We believe we are the only ones free of them. A Jektonok approached them and, how is it that we cannot see your ships? Where are your ships? Savalno smiled and, this is my science officer, Likvano, he is so direct sometimes so please excuse his directness. We are parked 60 mly away and our ships are all behind one planet or another. Gantley said. That's very far. How did you appear here? Likvano asked. Andrew chose not to answer. How long have you been here? Not long, we have yet to establish our people some of whom are still in the ships above. Savalno answered. Tonen asked, do you expect the Romits to reach this planet? Savalno turned to Tonen, we are very far from them. They should travel very fast to reach us in months or even years. There is a chemical that the Romits dispensed into the atmosphere making people change their mind on a lot of things. Do you know of this chemical? Ellie asked. Savalno looked at Likvano, we do not know of any chemical that changes people's mind. Likvano said. Bartolom and his men have been asking us about this chemical but we have not encountered it. Savalno said. Would you allow our people to access your data systems so we could learn about the Romits? Ellie asked. Savalno faced Ellie, Likvano can give you access to our data portals. Likvano signaled Ellie to follow him and Ellie looked at Tonen. Tonen communicated to his people to send Norset hackers down to help Ellie. As Ellie and Likvano were walking towards the door, 6 Norset hackers appeared and walked beside them carrying their equipment. Likvano was a bit surprised but seeing that Ellie did not mind the Norsets at all, he continued to walk. How long have you been at war with the Romits and do you remember what started the war? Tonen asked. Oh, the war started more than 200 years ago before I was born and I believe it started because they took over several of our planets and many more of our allies' planets. When we engaged them in war our allies deserted us and we had to fight the Romits alone. Unfortunately for us our allies sided with the enemy and we had to fight our friends as well. I was in charge of 6 planets and I lost all of them to the Romits. I do not know of what befell the other leaders. Now we find that they have controlled some of our armies already like what happened to Insantal and Bartolom. We are here to help. Andrew declared. Savalno continued, they are very strong. Their ships number in tens of thousands, their armies are in millions. You cannot possibly win. That's okay, we have our persuasive ways. Andrew said. How many fighting ships do you have? Tonen asked. We have 1,823 ships in orbit only 840 of them are actual fighting ships. The rest are transport and passenger ships. Andrew added, how about fighting men? How many are there? Maybe 2 million regulars and another 2 reserves. That's not a lot. Gantley said. Personally what do you think would be the Romits' weakness? Andrew asked. Pride. They are a proud race and they have never lost a battle according to them even if I know I beat them more than they beat me. They believe all creatures are below them and must follow them. If they want to kill or eat any creature, they do so without regards to the creature or the race it belongs. Right now they believe they have won over our race and maybe they have and they must all be basking in this victory for several months. Savalno said. How would you know that there are no spies in your midst? Tonen asked. What would spies be able to do? They cannot send communications out. Suddenly one of the Jektonoks talking to Insantal and Tonen's commanders became disoriented and said, where am I? What am I doing here? Then another member of Savalno's guards became disoriented. Then one of the science team members became dizzy and said, why am I here? Insantal quickly said, Andrew, Tonen, I believe some of the people may be infected by the chemical. I guess the reagent from the drones is starting to show their effects. Tonen said. What is happening Insantal? Savalno asked. Great leader, some of our people have been infected by the chemical and we have deployed our reagent to counteract the effects of the chemical induced by our people. Now they are waking up as if from a dream they often cannot remember. How about our people in the ships? You must deploy this agent in our ships as well. Savalno said. Tonen ordered one of his commanders to pump their ships with the reagent. It would take some time to completely cover all your ships. Please warn your ships that we would be dispensing the reagent shortly. Savalno called one of his commanders to communicate to all the ships that the reagent would be dispensed. Just then Ellie and Likvano walked in. Ellie was holding Likvano's arms. It seems Likvano woke up to find somebody else in his head. I like that Ellie. No I mean, so Likvano is not the science person? Andrew asked. He is Likvano, but he does not know why he is here. Ellie said. The infected people could be spies. How did you know? Savalno asked. Tonen answered him, we did not. But we were just being careful. The Norset hackers waved to Tonen and he saw them beam out. If we were to take on the Romits, what do you think, Savalno, would be the best strategy? Andrew asked. I do not know your capabilities, but the Romits are weakest where they believe nobody will attack them. Where would that be? Tonen asked. Their homeworld. I believe I understand you now. Tonen, Gantley, I would like to leave now. Thank you, Savalno. Andrew said. Tonen and Gantley thanked him as well. Gantley signaled his commanders and Tonen did the same. Their commanders beamed out first and the last was Andrew's group. Back in Tonen's bridge, if we are going to attack, the Romit homeworld capital would be our best bet. Tonen said. I guess Savalno may be right. Let's all regroup and plot a course to the Romit homeworld. Andrew said. The nearest route would come from Sanon's location. Tonen said. Let's all assemble our forces there. Andrew said. When they got back at Sanon's bridge. We have identified the Romit leaders and their location. We have sent taggers to tag almost all of the 10,000 or so Romits and their ships. Your communicators are on the table. I think we should pay them a visit as holograms. Tonen said. Sanon showed them a hologram of the location of the leaders. We can beam your holograms here. Go ahead, please. Andrew said. Gantley started. Greetings, I am the leader of the people of this planet. Please explain why you are here. The Romit guards drew their weapons and fired at the holograms. The laser blasts just went through. We will ask you one more time only and we would like that you answer immediately. Why are you here? Andrew asked. Okay, my name is Gantarak and I am leader of the 289th Expeditionary Force. You look similar to these people. Who are you? We ask the questions, not you. You are in our planet and you will explain to us now why you are here. I will not repeat again or I will send all your people into space and bring you back here. Gantley said. Gantarak looked at Gantley. I don't want to be disrespectful, but we are the leaders of this planet. Gantley looked at Sanon. Sanon, please. In a flash the Romit saw themselves in orbit and unable to breathe, and in a second they were back. How did you do that? Gantarak asked. I told you we ask the questions, you answer only. Sanon, again please. Gantley said. Again Gantarak saw thousands of Romits in space unable to breathe. This time Sanon held them a few seconds longer, then beamed them all down. Why are you here? Gantley asked in a cool voice. Gantarak settled himself. Okay, we are here for the glory of our Emperor to bring into the fold these lowly creatures into our protection. These people serve us of their own free will and we treat them well if they follow our wishes. This planet is important because the mines give us the metals we need for our ships. Sanon, gather all the Romits outside. Bring their ships down to the ground. Gantley said. Gantarak saw a ship crash just outside the building they were in. What else? Andrew asked. We unite all the people in a planet to serve our Emperor. We provide them with all the tools they need to do their work. And when they do not like to follow you? Gantley asked. Gantarak looked at Gantley. They all follow us. They like to follow us. Do you bring these people out of the planet? Andrew asked. Yes, we bring some of them to the other planets under our control. Do you eat them? Gantley asked. Gantarak did not hesitate. Yes. How about my species? Do you have planets with our species? Tonen asked. Yes, we have several. Do you eat them as well? Tonen asked. Gantarak showed no emotion. Yes. Sanon, deploy the drones and dispense the reagent. Andrew said. Sanon suggested, there is an unoccupied planet we can beam all the Romits to. Not yet, I want to see the effect of the reagent on the Romits. Send several to where you gathered the Romits. Andrew said. After a few minutes they see that Gantarak and the Romits seem to weaken. Gantarak, what is happening to you and your men? Gantley said. I feel weak. I cannot think properly. What are you doing to us? Please stop. We will leave your planet. Please, we beg you to stop this and we will leave your planet. My head hurts. Gantarak exclaimed as he fell from his chair. Too late, Gantarak. Andrew said and saw the Romits kneel and hold their heads. After several minutes, the pain seemed to subside and they were able to stand. Then the Romits talked to each other rather slow and quiet. Then they saw the Romits sat on the floor, some just laid on the floor, some on their side and some on their backs. Ellie broke the silence. So the Romits require the chemical to stay functional, and when we sent the reagent in the atmosphere they breathe it as well, and the chemicals in their bodies were neutralized, and the effect is general weakness and slow talking. Sanon? Yes, Ellie. That may be the explanation. Not only that the chemical made the Furlets very beholden to the Romits, with the reagent they are now starting to hate them and see them for what they are. Now we have the best weapon in the world and the best means to deploy them. Andrew said. Eric added, I think Boss Andrew means that we should redesign our drones to carry more reagent payload. Not only that, we should start sending the hop ships out to plot the course to the Romit galaxies. Roger said. And trace the hops towards the infected planets after the main path to the Romits have been laid out. Gantley added. How many drones do we have in all of our armada? Andrew asked. Sannon answered, according to my ship, we have 1,840,000 drones, old and new. These drones are from Andrew's 240 ships, Tonan's 400, Gantley's 400, Roden's 400 and Binaton's 400. Ellie countered, our stockpile of the Sannet now can only fill in over 1,000 drones. All our ships should start producing these Sannet. For the next several days, that's exactly what the ships did. All the ships have now arrived including the 100 ships the Mac sent. Andrew found out that the Mac sent more than 20,000 more drone batteries with each battery containing 10 drones lined up. Within that time Insantal arrived through the hops with more than 200,000 Jectanox. Andrew had the Norsets train them with the drones and in less than 2 days of training, they have acquired the skills to operate them alone and in formation. Cerudum arrived with more than 300,000 infantrymen and another 500,000 men, half of them skilled in making and repairing drones. The other half were drone technicians skilled in all the drone operation support functions.